Thank you. Today's debate centers on the question whether we should sacrifice trade in pursuit of human rights. Now, how about let's reverse the question? Should we sacrifice human rights in pursuit of trade? Should we accept that the cost of doing business there is that we must ignore the suffering of millions of people? My position is this. It's not necessary to cease all trade with China, but we must stop the trade that is driving and facilitating human rights abuse. Trade is not the only tool to promote human rights, but considering how rarely the alternatives, such as closed-door diplomatic talks, succeed, trade is often the most obvious lever that should be applied in the interest of human rights. This past December, 2 people from the UK purchased socks from Primark and found SOS notes inside. The note's author says that he is a political dissident being held in a Chinese detention center where he faced mental and physical torture. Primark disputed the note's authenticity, but later investigation confirmed the details in the note. If there are any reasonable grounds to believe that forced labor is part of a company's Chinese supply chain, shouldn't it stop sourcing product from that country? At least until it has confirmed that its business is not fueling human rights abuses. And this would be one example for sacrificing or suspending trade in the protest of human rights. Now, this is far from a trivial one. Consider the scale of this abuse. Up until 2013, there are over 300 re-education through labor camps operating in China. They detained hundreds of thousands of prisoners without trial. In many of these camps, religious and political prisoners of conscience were majority of the population, and they faced routine torture, sometimes death. The forced labor system is a significant source of revenue for the Chinese government. The local authorities have a financial incentive that is created with the help of business from Western companies to imprison law-abiding Chinese citizens and force them to make these products for export. The forced labor camp system was reformed in 2013, but in name only. It has continued in China for many years, despite quiet diplomatic protests. If we are to have any hope in making a real impact in this abuse, targeted trade sanction is the most effective. Until the costs outweigh the benefits of using forced labor, nothing will change. As China has grown more assertive and confident in the international stage, it has also become more brazen in its human rights abuse. From the recent extraterritorial abduction of Hong Kong book publishers to the televised forced confession of dissidents and foreign NGO workers. And that was almost certainly extracted under threats of torture. To the ongoing crackdown on human rights lawyers, and this is to say nothing of the violent persecution faced by ethnic and religious minorities. Why does this happen? In part because we, outsiders, have imposed no cost on its happening. China's rulers have learned that no matter how extreme their human rights abuses, they will face no real consequences, political or economic. We have taught the Chinese Communist regime that they can bully, imprison, torture, and kill their own citizens with impunity. Some believe that if we deepen ties with China, that the Communist Party will gradually embrace our Western values, that political liberalization will follow economic prosperity. But this is not happening in China, not for the past few decades. And as we wait for this hypothetical transformation, countless innocent Chinese citizens continue to perish in prisons and labor camps. And perhaps it is ours, not Beijing's value, that have changed as a result of our engagement. Not only do we have a moral obligation to act, we also have a legal obligation to advance human rights, as some of the abuses perpetrated by the Beijing government rise to the most serious level of international crime. Consider the party's campaign against Falun Gong. In the late 1990s, tens of millions of Chinese citizens were practicing this peaceful meditation practice of the Buddha school. The leadership of the Communist Party, fearing its popularity and its independence from state controls, decided that this practice must be eliminated. In a recent report, Freedom House showed that hundreds of thousands of Falun Gong practitioners have been imprisoned without trial, making them the largest group of prisoners of conscience in China, if not the world. In 2001, the party officially sanctioned the use of torture to force these people to renounce their beliefs, resulting in a huge number of people being killed in custody or dying soon after their release. The party has also disseminated hatred propaganda and misinformation to vilify and dehumanize Falun Gong practitioners, comparing them to vermin that must be exterminated. What does that remind you of? Two Canadian legal researchers, David Matas and David Kilgore, and American journalist Ethan Gutman have concluded that tens of thousands of Falun Gong practitioners, as well as Uyghur political prisoners of conscience, have been killed for their organs, which were sold for profit to transplant tourists. Think about that. The party has developed an explicit policy to eradicate a group that was practiced by millions of Chinese people. It has pursued this policy ruthlessly for the past 16 years, carrying out a systematic and sustained persecution that permeates every level of the society. These atrocities, crime against humanity, torture, and perhaps potentially genocide, is the most serious violation of international norms. How bad does it have to get before we decide to act? Furthermore, as soon as there is evidence of genocide happening, international law prompts all states to use any legal measure at our disposal, be it diplomatic, humanitarian, or economic, to stop it from happening. We have not done enough. We have met neither our legal obligations nor our moral obligations. And although the blame of the crimes belong to the perpetrators, we need to ask ourselves seriously whether we have been complicit. No, thank you. Some argue that China's market is so significant, we need to set aside our legal obligation and our moral obligation and be more pragmatic. It's not like the Chinese people themselves have not done everything they can to make the world aware of their plight. Many people in China face persecution because they want to stay true to their convictions. They refuse to be silenced or submit to fear and coercion. They have the courage to live in accordance with their own consciousness, no matter the price. How is it that we can conclude that the silencing, the killing, the torturing of them is a fair price to pay to sell goods to China? Human rights is the foundation of rule of law. And the rule of law is the foundation for a predictable investment climate. If we make no efforts in this regard, surely we are leaving ourselves exposed to the same kind of abuse that once only heaped on Chinese citizens. After all, if the Chinese government believes that it can disregard the right of its own people, why should we be expected to treat any better? China's intellectual property theft has cost foreign firms untold billions of dollars. Increasingly, more and more Western firms say that China is a hostile environment for foreign businesses. Many Chinese people themselves don't even trust the safety and standard, the quality of the products there. China is a country with no rule of law, with very low safety, labor, and environmental standards. And some Chinese companies with ties to the government and military present national security threats to foreign states because of their sophisticated and systematic espionage. Finally, do not believe that by standing up for human rights, we're imposing Western value on a foreign culture. I was born and raised in China, and I can tell you that Chinese people crave fairness as much as any of you. Chinese people don't want to be tortured any more than you do. Chinese citizens deserve to be treated in respectful and dignified manner as citizens of every Western nation. I sincerely hope that China will one day become a prosperous, free, and peaceful nation. Although the communist regime have declared me persona non grata, I am deeply in love with the country and its people. And I take comfort in knowing that no one party authoritarian regime will survive indefinitely. Changes will come to China, and it must come from within, from the Chinese people themselves. But one day, when the Chinese people are finally free to confront the crimes of the Communist Party, they should not have to also blame us for complicity. Thank you very much.